Okay, I guess it's time to get started. This is our workshop for non-awkward networking for aviation professionals. This has been a much requested class. We did this once at a Cygnus event and some other places simply because it is really important in the aviation industry. So many of our deals are done in person. And, this is one of those things that you really can't fake. You can either do it or you can't. And it is something that can be learned. So, we really want to take care of that. So I'm Paula Williams.
And I'm John Williams, and we're aviation business consultants, marketing.
Exactly. So please do two things. One is make sure you have a pen. There's going to be some notes that you're going to want to take. And also make sure that your phone is turned off for the hour because we've got a lot planned. And we want to make sure that you get a lot out of it. So, we found that multitasking is not what it's cracked up to be. And you really get a lot more out of these classes if you can devote your full attention. So if you have a question, all of the lines are muted so that we don't have noise on the line. Some of you may be in your cars or in noisy offices and things like that. So we mute all the lines. But if you want to ask a question, please do. We'll be answering those at various points during the presentation. So go ahead and type it into the little message box. And you can always say that it's to the organizers only if you don't want anybody to know who you are.
Just a side note, if you're in Utah and you're in your car, you can't be driving while you're on the phone. It's illegal now.
Right, and not just Utah. There's a bunch of other states, I think, that have that as well. Besides the fact it's just not a good idea, so we don't want to be responsible for anybody crashing, right? Okay, so why are we networking? Aviation is one of those fields where it's very, very high risk, very high trust, sometimes very high dollar value transactions. And, this is not an industry where people can sell things using an entirely online model. Almost every transaction that we've been involved in that is over a certain amount involves people that we've met at least once. Wouldn't you say that's true, John?
As a matter of fact, yes.
Exactly. And where do we meet them? We meet them often at different events. There's golf scrambles, there's charity events, there's the conventions for various associations and things like that. And all of those places are times when there's some unstructured time, when we don't really know what to do with ourselves, so we might as well network. And that's when some of our most profitable associations are made. So this becomes really, really important, but a lot of us are uncomfortable with this. And why is that?
Because we are introverts.
Exactly. In fact, this is actually a really good book. This is The Power of Introverts in a World That Can't Stop Talking. The weird thing is, in aviation, a lot of the folks that are decision makers or pilots, engineers, product developers, and so on, are people that I would probably classify as introverts. Have you found that to be true?
Very likely.
Yeah. These are not the, the football players in high school. These are not the people who were cool kids and all that. These are the people who were in the books all the time and people who were probably seen as nerds by their peers, including John and myself. I think we were both nerds in high school, right?
Yeah, unfortunately, or fortunately, as the case may be.
Exactly. So, this isn't something that came naturally to us. It still doesn't come naturally for me. It's something that I have to work at, being outgoing and, making sure I'm making the most of those events. Right. So this is a quote by the very famous Paula Williams, or soon to be famous Paula Williams. If you're in the aviation industry and you're not Howard Hughes, you do not have the luxury of being an introvert. I'm reading this just for the benefit of people who may be listening on their phone and don't have the slides in front of them. Believe me, I've tried. So, we don't have the luxury, especially in certain circumstances, of being an introvert. We really do need to make connections, build relationships, and all of those things to make our businesses successful. So, what's your reason for networking? There's a lot of them. not just sales. And I think people lose sight, especially those who are uncomfortable with networking. They feel like it's just sales. But if you kind of expand your focus and think beyond that, and think, the reason for networking is to make friends and allies, to have fun, to recruit talent. A lot of this, the hardest thing for us is finding good people. So, this can help us with that. To learn new things from your industry or from out of your industry. Sometimes those are the best places to find new ideas, find supplies and solutions to your problems, or find potential customers. So we're going to start with a couple of don'ts because we want to keep this really positive and get the don'ts out of the way to start with. The first one is don't just hang out with people you know. So many people go to these conferences and things, and then they just hang out with the people from their own company, which they could do every day around the water cooler, right? So, it just makes me crazy when I see these little herds of people going from event to event or booth to booth, only talking with their own folks. It reminds me of, teenage girls who, move in little herds.
Cliques, I think everyone
Little
is.
cliques, exactly. So, you definitely don't want to be a teenage girl. You want to be grown up about this, be on your own, keep your eyes open, associate with new people, and so on. And you want to make sure that you're making the most of the opportunity to meet people outside of your little circle. Second thing you don't want to do is retreat into your gadget. This is the universal international symbol for don't bother me, right? I think everybody understands that it's really, really difficult to engage with someone who's distracted. So, and whenever we're uncomfortable, we tend to check our email, right? Or check our social media, and other kinds of things. And there's a time and a place for that. Before an event is a great time to look up the people that you're likely to be meeting and maybe connecting with them, letting them know, I'm going to be at this event coming up. Are you going to be there? And those kinds of things. But you want to do that before and or after the event and connect with people and that kind of thing. But you do not want to have your nose buried in your gadget while you're at a networking event. That just makes it 1,000 times harder to be participating in what's going on. So, questions on why we have to network?
Well, comment first. You use the gadgets to get into the network, but then you put them away when you actually get there with the people.
Right. And some people have asked us the question, why can't we just network using social media? Or why can't we just network using email? And the answer to that is society is not there yet, at least the people who are making decisions. And hopefully we never get there, actually. A lot of us really enjoy and really can build trust in person that isn't really possible on social media yet. So you can start a relationship or continue a relationship on social media, but you really can't just rely on the gadgets. You really have to network in person.
And then another one was, how do you get your team to split up at the trade show or other event and not just hang out together like a bunch of schoolgirls?
Okay, right. So you have a team of people, and we've seen this a lot, actually. We consult with a lot of managers of companies who have a small team or a large team of 6 or 8 people who always hang out together at these kind of events, and they go to every single class together, and they go to lunch together, and all of those things. Let me tell you about John and myself. We like to spend time together. We got married for that reason, and we like traveling together and things like that. But we have found that it is so much more effective when we go to events separately, or at least when we split up at these events, which is kind of weird, but it's true, isn't that? I mean, you went to HAI by yourself, John.
Yes, and we have a couple of clients as a result of that.
Exactly. But you met every single person on your list, and you were just really, really productive at that.
Yeah, my intent was actually not to sell My intent was just to say hi and have another handshake and put a face to a name with some folks we'd already talked with.
But why were you so much more effective than if I'd been hanging out with you?
You tell me. I don't know. I'm just new at this.
Okay. Well, when you have another person there that you kind of, tend not to spend as much time connecting with other people. You're on a time frame. You're worried about what the other person's going to think, if they're getting hungry, and so forth and so on. And, if you're by yourself, then you can really focus on the new folks, focus on the new connections that you're making. What I would do with your team is give everybody an objective and make sure that they have a plan going in, a list of people that they're wanting to connect with.
That's exactly right. And that's what I had was a list. And as I went through this trade show, of course, obviously I have an interest in aviation, and because of my years in helicopters, that as well. So I would head toward these other places, and en route I would see some things, and I'd stop and talk to people, and one thing would lead to another, and you make a connection.
Right. And, one thing that we've seen or heard about is telling every person that goes to a trade show, look, I'm going to pay for your hotel and your meals and everything else, but as a result of this, I want you to come out of there with 10 good contacts, 10 business cards and that kind of thing. So you don't want to just be going around collecting business cards. You want to actually be making a good connection, taking a lot of notes, and so on. So you may tell your folks, if you go to a trade show, I'll pay your way, but here's the catch,
And the trick is, when you talk to people, is not be the first one to produce your business card. Mm-hmm. You need to make the discussion interesting enough so that as you start to leave, they say, "Oh, wait a minute. Give me a call. Here's my card," and you're good to go.
And you have a future event set,
right,
where you have a thing to talk about or a question.
Yeah, because then you ask them, okay, well, what would be a good date?
Mm-hmm. And set an appointment if you can. So yeah, next event is great, and we'll talk about techniques and stuff in a few minutes. But we just wanted to talk about those do's and don'ts quickly before we get into the meat of this. So.